If you have a rent payment, then that means that you have rent. You could not have a rent payment, meaning you could be homeless. You could not have a car payment, meaning you could walk everywhere. But you have that freedom to choose. Freedom is not just we think of it as just the capacity to do whatever it is that you want to do, which should be terrifying to most of us. But properly understood, freedom is to have the context in which you can do the right thing, to choose the right sort of things. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to fail in a bunch of things, and the stakes are going to be high. It's going to be your life savings. It's going to be your time. Do you have the resiliency to believe in yourself? I mean, people talk about how do you develop confidence. You develop resiliency. You've got to fail in some things and come back from it, to believe that you can, rather than quit. Because the difficulties of life only get easier. They only get easier if you develop that resiliency. Otherwise, every little difficulty, every little challenge, every little tragedy is going to seem huge. If you have stress, then you have responsibilities. How do you relieve your stress when you have responsibilities? Practice being successful. If you haven't succeeded at things in your life, well then yeah, big tasks are going to stress you out because they're going to seem insurmountable. And then when you overcome them, the next big challenge isn't going to be so stressful because you're going to remind yourself, oh, I got past that one thing at one time. And over life, the magnitude of your responsibilities can expand and the levels of your stress can greatly, greatly diminish because you have reasons to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, that's how you develop it. And most of us don't have good reasons to believe in ourselves. Not because we're dumb, not because we suck, not because we're unskilled, we're just unpracticed. Get some practice. Practice means failure. Failure, if you use it properly, leads to resilience. Resilience leads to success. Resilience and success is excited by freedom. How do you pay a bill? How do you pay a bill online? Well, duh, you just do this, you follow the directions. It's so obvious. Why is that so obvious?
Because you know how to do it.
And why do I know how to do it?
Because you pay bills.
Yeah, because I've done it before. It's not because I'm exceptionally smart, although I am. It's because I've done it before. You've got experience in it. If you've never done something before, of course you wouldn't know how to do it. It's like when we talk about common sense. What is common sense? It's oftentimes sense that's common to you because you've done it before. It isn't necessarily common to me because I've never done it before. But when we fail things, we kind of think like, oh my gosh, what if I mess this thing up? You probably will the first few times. And then what? Then you'll get it right. I'm thinking of what's resiliency? Let me ask that. What does it mean to be resilient? But that's because it broke, it fractured, but it came back stronger. When you tear a muscle, it comes back stronger if you allow it to. Now, think about yourself in life. We oftentimes say, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. Well, does it though? It does for some people. Some people get made stronger by the little tiny fractures in their lives, and they come back stronger. But that's that characteristic of resilience. Resilience is to be strong, but it's strength from not giving up. It's continuously and purposely moving forward, never giving up. It's easy to do, especially if you've never had. It's not easy to do. Sorry, it's easy to give up. As I was thinking of, it's easy to give up if you've never had to be resilient. If you've moved out of your house and you've never known how to cook before, or you've never known how to pay bills before, you go back to your mom, who did it for you maybe your whole life. But if you did it your whole life, you don't know how to do it when you're on your own. I wonder how many of you guys do your own laundry. My mom made me do laundry when I was like a little kid. I could barely carry the basket, and she taught me how to do the laundry. Again, my mom was injured. She was disabled. She could barely walk, and so it's almost like I have a necessity, like 7-year-old me having to do my own laundry and sorting these things out. And I come across people now who are in their 20s who have never done their own laundry before. And I don't mean this in a sense of like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so? No, what's wrong? Nothing. They've just never done it before. They've never experienced it before. They're still learning. And there are things in life that, if you've never experienced them before, they can knock you back down. In other words, if you've never done laundry before, I guess the question is, how do you do it? Do you go to your parents and ask them, how do I do laundry? Or do you have or do you go to the laundromat and go, I'm gonna figure this out. How hard can it be? You know, you go online to search about how to do it, or you try to figure it out. Now, if you go online and search it up, or you ask someone, sure, it can happen faster, but there are things in life that you can't do that with. And if you've never had experience figuring things out before, you haven't developed the mental resiliency to keep trying. Because if you've never done it before, you're gonna fail. You're gonna mess some things up. I did shrink some shirts, which is funny. I'm like 7 years old and somehow I still shrunk my shirts to be too small for me doing laundry. But then you figure out afterwards how not to let that happen, how to not give up when you're under those pressures. And so that's why I asked this thing about the responsibility, what the fear is. And a lot of times it's accepting these mistakes. And that's because we see oftentimes mistakes, we think that they say something about us. And here's what your mistakes say about you. You're inexperienced, so you need more experience. So if you want to not make those mistakes in the future, what do? You get more experience. Mistakes mean that you made an error. What kind of an error though? Was it physical? Was it mental? Was it psychological? Find out so that you don't make that mistake again in the future. If any of us are born perfect, then we don't need to grow. We don't need to make mistakes. But none of us is born perfect, so therefore we need to. And so we have this tension in our culture where we talk about things. We'll say oftentimes like, "Oh no, mistakes are great because then you get to learn." I'd rather never make a mistake and never learn. But if you have to make a mistake, and since you will make a mistake, it's an opportunity to learn. But it's hard to learn if you're afraid of making a mistake because you think like, oh, it means I'm stupid, or it means I'm lazy, or it means this, or it means that. All it really means is that you're inexperienced. And if you did make a mistake because you weren't paying attention, so now that's a mental mistake. So what do you have to do? Pay more attention. And you learn that, if that's the case. Hopefully. But this fear of responsibility a lot of times is because we oftentimes say that we want freedom. But as we say, along with freedom comes responsibility. And we almost say that like a cliche. We just kind of nod along and go, yeah, that's right. It's like with great power comes great responsibility, right? It was in a Spider-Man movie, it must be true. I don't know that it's true that with great power comes great responsibility. Responsibility only comes with people who kind of accept it. And we're oftentimes hell-bent on thinking that responsibility is a really bad thing. Like, oh, when you get older, you gotta pay bills. And I was talking about this, I think, last week. Well, if you have a car payment, that means you have a car. If you have a rent payment, then that means that you have rent. You could not have a rent payment, meaning you could be homeless. You could not have a car payment, meaning you could walk everywhere. But you have that freedom to choose. Freedom is not just we think of it as just the capacity to do whatever it is that you want to do, which should be terrifying to most of us. But properly understood, freedom is to have the how do you say it? I guess to have the context in which you can do the right thing, to choose the right sort of things. And what the right things are, it's going to be up to you to figure out probably. It's different for, unless we're talking about moral action, but like what's the right course of your life? In what areas do you want to become resilient? Anybody in here want to strengthen your shins so that you can kick metal poles in your life? Yeah, some skills are not worth having. There are these martial artists who practice taking groin kicks, so getting kicked in the groin all day. But you go online, you can see them. These guys, people are running up like full speed and just boom and kicking them. Why? It's the same process I just described, where you actually strengthen things. But it's like, I don't know, man. There's some skill sets that are just not worth having because it takes so much of yourself to put into it to get there. So I guess I would say that the responsibility is to develop the skill sets that are actually going to be beneficial to a fruitful life. What's a fruitful life? Well, you tell me, if you're being honest. What is a fruitful life? What is a good life? What is a proper life? You don't need me to tell you. You already kind of probably know what it is, and that's what bothers us because we oftentimes realize that we're not fulfilling our responsibilities to achieve the things that we actually want to choose for our lives. Like if we say, we want to go to college. I don't know, are we studying hard right now? Are we developing the skill sets so that when we get to college, that we actually can excel there? Because the point of high school is not to get into college. The purpose of high school is to get you ready for things. So that if you go to college, well then yeah, you have the skill set. If you don't go to college, then yeah, you have the skill set to exist in the world, to get a job. It's an interesting thing that we want to go to college to learn, but I wonder how many books do we read? I wonder how many of us, I asked this question because I was just reading something yesterday about the number of books that high school graduates read by decades. And I wonder how many of us have ever read a full book by ourselves. And maybe we had one read to us in class, and even the way we do school, you're going to notice we don't read novels in this class. Probably didn't read any, I'm guessing probably didn't read any last year, 11th grade. But think about when the last time was we read a full book. And if we don't read a full book, I wonder, what makes us think that we're ready for college? If we aren't ready to be independent right now, as we say during class, I don't hover over you. I don't tell you, hey, get to work, you can do it. Come on, do this, get to work. I don't do that. Are you the person who needs that? Because if so, college might not be for you. But then again, then neither is almost any independent work. Being an entrepreneur, owning your own business, that's not for you. If you're not the person who can self-motivate and self-discipline, get yourself to work. It kind of almost begs this question about what is it that we're raising up. But again, a lot of that is about that resiliency. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to fail in a bunch of things, and the stakes are going to be high. It's going to be your life savings. It's going to be your time. Do you have the resiliency to believe in yourself? People talk about how do you develop confidence. You develop resiliency. You've got to fail in some things and come back from it to believe that you can, rather than quit. But that freedom of responsibility is that. The fear of freedom is exactly that. It is a fear of responsibility because of what we think that responsibility, if we fail, might mean about us. Keep it in a proper context. If you fail because you're not trying, well, then what does it say? It means that you need to try. And that's the bottom line. That's the bottom rung, man. That is the bottom rung. I'm not going to coddle you and say, you got out of bed this morning. I'm so proud of you. No. So did billions of other people. Did you fail today and get back up? If so, I'm proud of you. Did you push forward anyway? Yeah, I'm proud of you. Are you going through some incredible difficulty in life right now, and yet you still show up and put yourself in, not just show up. Lots of people showed up. Are you putting yourself into what it is that you're doing, into your schoolwork, into your work, your after-school job, into your sport, whatever it is? Are you actually showing up and putting yourself into it despite the difficulties of life? Because the difficulties of life only get easier. They only get easier if you develop that resiliency. Otherwise, every little difficulty, every little challenge, every little tragedy is going to seem huge. You guys ever walk past something in your house and you bump your shin? And you growl, oh my God, it's like the worst pain you've ever felt in your life, you're ready to die. If you want to have strong shins, you need to go through that lots of times. The same is true about your life. If the first time you face a massive challenge is when you're in your 20s, because up until that point, you've been shielded from difficulty. Like last period, somebody had talked about how bad stress is. And I was asking that question, well, what's so bad about stress? We talk about stress like it's a terrible thing. If you have stress, then you have responsibilities. How do you relieve your stress when you have responsibilities? Practice being successful. If you haven't succeeded at things in your life, well then yeah, big tasks are going to stress you out because they're going to seem insurmountable. And then when you overcome them, the next big challenge isn't going to be so stressful because you're going to remind yourself, oh, I got past that one thing that one time. And over life, the magnitude of your responsibilities can expand and the levels of your stress can greatly, greatly diminish because you have reasons to believe in yourself. I've been here before. I'll take this minute to point out that this is exactly why baseball is the greatest sport in the world. I'll stand by this because baseball is a game of failure. If you're a baseball player and you're hitting 300, that means that you get 3 hits out of every 10 at-bats. That means you fail 70% of the time. And yet what do you do next time? You grab the bat and you go back up there again. And hitting a baseball is one of the hardest things that you can do in the world, especially against a really skilled pitcher. Baseball develops resiliency. Sports develop resiliency generally. In football, you get hit, you get knocked down, you get back up, or you go to the hospital for concussion, let it heal, and then go back to the next game. But with baseball, you're constantly failing, constantly, and yet you have the resilience to get back up and go in there anyway. And that gives you the confidence to believe that no matter how bad things are, That's it. Even if I just get that 3 in 10, I'm a Hall of Famer. And as life expands and your success expands, you have good reasons to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, that's how you develop it. And most of us don't have good reasons to believe in ourselves. Not because we're dumb, not because we suck, not because we're unskilled, we're just unpracticed. Get some practice. Practice means failure. Failure, if you use it properly, leads to resilience. Resilience leads to success. Resilience and success is excited by freedom, not terrified by it. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Tuesday.